Welcome everyone to a new episode of Reminiscing Bollywood Classics. The film I'm about to discuss today has many layers and it is difficult to cover it in a 10-minute podcast. But there is no harm in trying. It can be described as an emotional drama, a tragic semi autobiographical film, or a heart-rending love story. Well, I personally lean towards describing the movie as a love story. As the story goes through twists and turns, you want things to turn out well for the lead character, even though you know they won't. Usually, a hero is introduced with loud music, or he's bashing up the villains, or he's running with the wind blowing through his hair. You get the gist. The typical movie tropes. However, in this film, right in the first scene, we see a broken, ragged old man toddling through a film studio with a song Dekhi Zamane Ki Yari Bichde Sabhi Bari Bari playing in the background. This broken old man is the main protagonist of the film. Welcome to the world of the great Mr. Gurudutt. The film I'm talking about is a 1959 classic, Kaagaz Ke Phool. This is one of the most important films in the history of Indian cinema, and sadly, it was a colossal flop at the box office. I have no clue why, but one of the greatest painters of all time, Mr. Vincent van Gogh, was considered a failure, and he died in poverty. He found fame many years later after his death, when people realized the magnitude of his brilliance. Kaagaz Ke Phool suffered the same fate as Mr. Vincent van Gogh did, and the only explanation I can think of is that some people are so far ahead of the curve that sometimes common folk fail to comprehend their brilliance. And when people finally understand that they were in the company of a true master, sometimes it is too late. Kaagaz Ke Phool tells the story of a talented film director, Suresh Sinha, played by Mr. Gurudutt, who was at the peak of his powers. One rainy night, he meets the beautiful Shanti, played by the Rahman, who is soaking wet in the rains. When he asks her, "Why are you not wearing a raincoat?" she says, सर्दी जुकाम मुफ्त में मिलते हैं, गर्म कोट के लिए पैसे लगते हैं. He lends her his coat and he meets her again on his film set when she comes there to return his coat. Suresh recognizes that Shanti has the talent to be a film actress and gives her a break in his movie. Shanti becomes an overnight sensation and both of them fall in love. The professional and personal lives of Suresh collide, and he slowly descends into a deep abyss from which only Shanti can rescue him. But will he accept her help? Pride is considered a vice and self-respect a virtue. But there is a thin line which separates the two. Pride leads to destruction. Everyone knows that. But sometimes self-respect can do that too. In the film, Suresh makes movies only for himself, not for his audience or his financiers. And this is the sign of a true artist. A person who writes for himself, paints for himself, or sings for himself gains the most satisfaction out of his work because he is looking to please himself, not the world. Suresh is that kind of person, a man who loves his art and possesses self respect. Now, that is a lethal combination. He is shunned by his family and the society. It is only Shanti who stands by him like a rock. Shanti is willing to sacrifice her successful career for him. And when producers beg Shanti to return to acting, she says she is willing to act only if Suresh directs the film. There is a beautiful scene in which Shanti is trying to persuade Suresh to direct a movie. सुरेश सेज, सब कुछ खोने के बाद सिर्फ एक चीज़ बची है मेरे पास, मेरी खुददारी। इस वक्त मैं वो खुददारी तुम्हारे हवाले करता हूँ। Shanti knows she loves a man who is willing to give up fame, money, and success, but won't give up his self-respect. वक्त ने किया क्या हसी सितम, तुम रहे ना तुम, हम रहे ना हम. These haunting lyrics by Kafi Azmi Saab and immortalized by the talented Mrs. Geeta Dutt describes the relationship aptly. The romance between them is subtle and pure. As a viewer, you respect them as individuals and also respect the choices they make in the movie. Gurudutt and Wahida Rahman complement each other perfectly, and I can't think of anyone who could have suited the roles of Suresh and Shanti so perfectly. In one scene, Suresh tells Shanti, "Tumhari saadgi mein kashish hai," and that's how I would describe Wahida Rahman ji in this film. There's a gut-wrenching scene in the climax when Suresh runs on the street to get away from Shanti. And you want him to stop and look back. You know that one look can save him. But he doesn't. The haunting melody composed by S.D. Burman Saab plays in the background with the lyrics, "एक हाथ से देती है दुनिया, 100 हाथों से ले लेती है." That is the brutal reality of life. In the 2002 Sight and Sound Critics and Directors poll, Kaagaz Ke Phool was ranked at number 160 among the greatest films of all time. This was the last film directed by Mr. Gurudutt, and the failure of this film hurt him financially and emotionally. He gave up directing after this film and concentrated on acting and producing. He suffered a financial loss because of Kaagaz Ke Phool, but Indian cinema suffered an irreparable loss, and we can only just speculate what he could have achieved had he directed more films. Only a cinematic genius can direct an esoteric, poetic movie like Kaagaz Ke Phool at the age of 33. Please do watch this movie. Until next time, folks. Thank you for listening.